Hey, Hickok 45 here, loading one of my favorite styles of rifle. Yes, lever gun, and she's loaded. 30-30. Didn't think you'd ever see one here, did you, at the compound? I've had 30-30s before, I promise, but I feel almost un-American that I am so long getting another one for you and for me. And if you know anything about lever guns, you probably already know what this baby is. Yes, I really feel unpatriotic for not having a Model 94, a Winchester 94, for a long time. I mean, I should be ashamed of myself. I totally agree with you. Because this rifle is loaded, of course. You just saw me put rounds in it, in the tube at least, that's all. It is as much Americana as anything. And you folks overseas and other countries, you know what I'm talking about too, don't you? The Winchester Model 94, originally called the, well, it was called the Model 94, of course, 1894, but it was chambered for a couple of other rounds. Didn't come out initially as the 30-30, but when it did, the 30-30, quote unquote, was the 30 WCF, Winchester centerfire. So you see these old rifles, really old ones, and it'll say 30 WCF on the barrel. And if you're like me, when I was younger and I'd see one of those, I was, wow, what's a 30 WCF? You know, I knew 30-30, but what's that? You know, of course, same thing. And we'll talk about that. But the 1894 Winchester is iconic. It has it's been around since about 1894, really it has, and has been chambered in the 30 WCF or the 30-30 for a long time, since about 1895. So two iconic things in my hand right now: Winchester Model 94 and the 30-30 cartridge. So let's take a few shots here before we gab too much. All right. Oh, let's just go on over there and try that red plate. See if we can come close to it. See if I can see these sights. Right. Oh, it went under it. I knew it was going to happen. Just like I knew that one was going to hit it. Okay. Let's take out a 2-liter while we're here. Like that black, brown, whatever it is. Whoa! That's let's try the other one. Wow! It's like shooting a 45-70. I might as well take out the, let's try that little pot there on top of the tombstone. See if we can pop him. Shook him up a little bit. We'll get him later. I guess I was holding too low. All right, so anyway, that's the 94. If you're familiar with lever guns and you've just not had a 94, you know, they're a little different. You know, looks like the insides fall out when you open it up. And it was designed that way so that the receiver can be shorter and still chamber a longer cartridge, you know, without it adding to the length of the receiver. So that's the way it works. And you get your bolt that comes up in the back, you know, or block locks the bolt in place. Model 94, it's been around a while. There's been about, what is it, 6 or 7 million of them made, you know, so it's not a new kid on the block or anything. It was originally, you know, made and chambered for black powder cartridges, the 3855, the 3240, and I have not owned anything in those calibers. I'm familiar with especially the 3855, almost bought something in that once. And, you know, I think the original loading smokeless was 160 grain bullet at almost 2,000 feet per second. So that's pretty spiffy for the time, and it gets a job done, you know, anytime. The thing goes back in history, goes a long way. These things, again, like I said, it's an iconic rifle. They've been presented to presidents. You know, like, what was it, 27, I think, to Calvin Coolidge. He got the 1,000,000th copy. Truman in 48 got the, what, the 1.5 million copy, something like that. And then when they got up to the 2 million level, Eisenhower was president, I think 53. So, you know, they just been, there's so much history associated with the Model 94 that you know, just tons of it. And again, I think I'm correct. This was the first commercial rifle chambered for a smokeless cartridge, you know, the 30-30 or the 30 WCF, whereas the first military rifle in the U.S. was the 30-40 Krag. That was smokeless as well, and that was just a couple, 3 years before this. But this was the first commercial rifle, chambered, designed, particularly in '95, I believe. I'm not sure in the first year it came out. I think it was in '95 that they changed the steel to where it would handle, you know, easily the smokeless powder, and then it was chambered for the 30 WCF, and the rest is history. If you know anything about hunting or about hunting rifles, you know probably quite a bit about the 30-30, more than I do. I've had a couple. In fact, they were 94s, but they were newer 94s. Let's put a few more rounds in this while we're gabbing. But and I got a little bit of ammo. Even 30-30 is hard to find. It really is. I had a commemorative model. I think it was Canadian Centennial I'd picked up once. Had it for a little while, and you know, as far as a lot of shooting, I tend to shoot the pistol caliber lever guns more than anything. And so I don't know, I traded it for something, and it was a post 64 model, which we'll talk about, and it wasn't quite as desirable anyway. It wasn't a collector's piece. Well, they considered it collectors. It was, you know, there's a lot of commemorative 30-30s and Winchester Model 94s, and man, they commemorate everything. You know, the Buffalo Bill, you name it. And a lot of them were made since 1964. You know, that's 5 or 6, but that's enough. And I just traded those for something else. This one is a pre-64, and for those of you who know what that means, you know what that means. We'll talk about that a little bit. Let's shoot something. Oh, a cinder block. John set up a cinder block. Let's take a couple of shots at that thing. I haven't really messed with the sights. They seem to be pretty much on. I'm not 100% sure, but... Nice. I love that dust. Sweet. Let's put them all on it. Or try to. Yeah, like I said, try to. One more. It's fun chewing up cinder blocks with rifle rounds. Cute, cute. Now those are Fiocchi 150 grain, yeah, bullets. I've got a few PMC I've had around forever, since when I used to have a 30-30. See, there's proof. I've had these forever. Those are 170 grain 30-30s, and just hung on to those, the PMC. Found a few boxes of this recently, so we have a little bit to shoot it. Now, 364, oh boy, what does that mean? Well, Winchester in 1964 made some changes to this classic rifle. It was getting expensive for them to manufacture, and they wanted to keep it inexpensive for hunters, because I mean, this is a knock around gun. Man, if you're into guns and hunting at all, back anytime in the 20th century almost, you probably had one of these. And it's just a very, very common rifle. And well, they wanted to keep it that way, and so they cut costs. You know, all of this one is 1958, by the way, vintage 1958, and it's mine. I found it recently. I decided I needed a Winchester Model 94, and I wanted a pre-64 model if I got one again. Well, the barrel bands are all machine, you know, steel. The receiver, you know, steel, it's forged and everything. The whole 9 yards. The carrier, the elevator, just everything, you know, like they used to make things. Well, Winchester went and changed that, and they used alloys and different things on all these parts. And to make matters worse, nothing wrong with alloy necessarily. I mean, think about some of the great guns out there that have alloy receivers, you know, whether it's a SIG or a Benelli shotgun, a Mossberg. You know, a lot of people would swear by those, including myself. So nothing wrong necessarily with that, except even to make matters worse, the first go round on it. I don't know how many years it was, 2 or 3 years, some of the early ones. Some of you may know more about them than I do. Not only did they change the material, some kind of alloy and weird plating and all that, but they didn't hold the bluing or the color very well. So not only are they alloy, they got away from the steel, but they look like crap, to put it mildly. I've seen some of those. They just don't look good. I don't know if they were more prone to breakage. Some of them. Actually, what I have read is that the new ones, if you buy one today or you bought one in '64 or 1970, they actually functionally are just fine and they work fine. And especially today, if you buy one that was post '64, you'll get it for a lot better price than these. These things, I mean, they start out at $600 or $700 basically, unless it's a real junker, you know, and on up to $1,000, $2,000 if they're like in pristine condition possibly. So you do have to pay to get one that's all steel, one of the old ones. They are collector's items basically. It's too bad, isn't it? But the new ones work, from what I read, just fine. And the ones I had worked fine too. But they went and messed it up. A lot of people think, I mean, even before I knew what people were talking about, because I've been in the gun community a long time, I hear people that knew about these things, and you know, be it with somebody at a gun show, a friend of mine said, yeah, is that a pre-64? And I got to hearing that pre-64 and post-64 phrase all the time, and I thought, well, there must be some significance to that. A friend of mine, what's the deal with the pre and post-64? You know? So I remember him telling me a little bit about that at one point, and it definitely, they changed them. Okay, so they work fine, the new ones, as I understand, but these old ones are nice. And I decided if I was going to have one, and just have one, I'm not going to be a collector or anything, I'd just go ahead and get a pre-64 model. And I found a nice one in Franklin not too long ago. So again, the 3030, so much history with it. That cartridge is considered, I guess still so today, even at least over the years, it has taken more game, big North American game, big game, than any other cartridge, the 3030. And there's some disagreements, I think, with the history of the 3030 in terms of whether or not it started out as black powder and all this kind of thing, because it's right there on the cusp of the edge of the end of the black powder era in the beginning of the smokeless powder. The best I can tell and figure is that it was the first smokeless round for you know, this gun. You know, Winchester developed it. People will load black powder in it sometimes. You'll see some black powder loadings, but it was never commercially offered as a black powder round. It was a smokeless round, okay? And so that is part of the reason for the confusion maybe. And also, I read, don't know if it's true, I wasn't there at the time because I was born in about 1905 after that, you know, but that Winchester called this cartridge the 30 WCF, and when Marlin came out with a gun chambered in it, they didn't necessarily like the idea of putting 30, you know, Winchester centerfire on their guns, you know, and so they started calling it the 3030, and that's the black powder designation for around, you know, the 30 caliber and 30 grains of powder, like the 45-70, 45 caliber and 70 grains of black powder. So that makes it sound like a black powder cartridge. So you got all those things wrapped up into it. And I also read that it was loaded when it came out with 30 grains of powder, but it was DuPont smokeless powder. So it's somewhat accurate, I guess, but it was a smokeless round from the beginning, okay? Smokeless. All right. A little more history than you want to know there maybe, but it's a very popular cartridge. I've got to be careful on this pot because I don't want to hit that steel this close. Let's try that other pot again. I think I was low. Alright, smoked him. 3030's got a little power. Let's try that block again over there, that cinder block. I like seeing him tumble a little bit. My wish is his command, right? Oh, let's get this 2-liter right here, sticking his head out. Woo. Nice. And let's get this one while we're at it. Wow, really hits hard. I'm gonna put one on the red plate again. I'm not gonna pop that melon yet. All right. I'm really pleased with it, because I with my old eyes, well, it's not really old eyes, it's my little bit of astigmatism. I have a hard time with the old standard sights, but that like, I can see it okay. It's got a nice dot there. It's not crystal clear, but it's I can see it well enough to enjoy shooting it. Like I say, the whole bottom drops out of here, and I used to not like that too much, but you know, one thing that makes it more acceptable is when I remember who designed this. Yeah, want to take a guess? Yeah, right. John Browning. Yeah, that'd be a pretty good guess on almost any gun, wouldn't it? That's popular and works. Yeah, John Browning designed this thing, and if he likes it and he thought it would work, well, who am I not to like it? So it works. These things everywhere. John Browning's another one of his creations, the lever gun. Pretty cool. 30-30 is a nice cartridge. Ballistically, you hear people talk about it. It's similar to the 7.62 by 39, you know, the AK round, SKS round. It's very similar to that in ballistics. And I guess actually it's the AK round that's compared with this more than the other way around. But they're very similar. You know, they hit hard. They hit hard. That's why it's such a popular deer round. Now you notice the nose on these is flat. Why? You all know that, don't you? Because you're putting it in a tubular magazine, and you have rounds. I've talked about this before, but we can never be too safe. You have rounds in that tube just like that, and the end of this one's against that primer, and with recoil going on. Okay, so you need a flat nose cartridge. Now there are some rounds made with the little rubber tips, lever evolution as they're called. I've got some of this for 4570. I need to pick up some for this. If we do a chapter 2 on it, I'll get some of those and show you. And they step up the game a little bit, because they don't have to be a flat point. So there's some advantage in that, of course. A little bit hotter and faster. So it takes the 30-30 to a new level with those, if you need it to go to a new level. Let me round that one in. I discovered with this the old method of not putting the first round in all the way works better. Whereas with a lot of my lever guns, it doesn't really matter. Just like that, and then leave the head out a little bit and push it on in the next round. But it loads pretty easily when you do it like that. Okay, there's just something special, isn't there, about a lever gun? I mean, they're just so cool. And again, these old pre-64 models, you don't have the safety on here and the cross bolt safeties or anything like that. So I like that. This is the traditional gun. Why did I take my ears off? Okay, so I could hear y'all if you said something to me, if you made fun of me. Okay. Well, yeah, you know what? I've run out of targets here. Let's take just a couple more shots. Well, that was smart. I just jacked out a live round, didn't I? Let's put another one on the red plate here. All right. Went under it. Let's take out Mr. Watermelon here. See if it will blow it. That watermelon has been around a while now. But not anymore. 30-30 did it. Oh man. What else do I have? I don't have any other pots or anything here. So let's put a hole in that propane tank. Oh no, I see another cinder block. Let's back up and hit a piece of that cinder block. That black piece right here close. All right, a little too close to be shooting it probably. But you only live once. Okay, 30-30 is a nice round. It kicks a little bit, but it's not very significant at all. It's not, and it has some punch. That's why it's such a good deer rifle. It will get the job done, and who am I to say whether it will or not? I've not used it on deer, but millions of people have successfully and like it. You know, these things in Marlin and Winchester and other guns are everywhere, you know, in the shops. One advantage to, of course, the Marlins, you can put a scope right on top of it, and you can do that with these, but you have to get a side mount and do some things with it. You know, where everything opens up on the top, You know, it's a different proposition than, you know, with my Marlin lever guns. I've got peep sights sitting here and all that. You can do all that with these guns. It just takes a different kind of setup. And I'm not going to do anything with this. I just like to leave it like it is. It's a beautiful gun. Winchester 94, so much history. Again, they changed them in 64. That's a big year. If you're shopping for them, keep that in mind. And you have to decide, make that decision early on how much you want to spend, because if you go back before 64, it's going to be maybe double, you know, what you want to spend for one if you just want a gun, a shooter, bang around with. Okay, and there's not a more historic gun hardly out there that's been in continuous use for that long. Winchester made them from what, 94 up through I think 1980s, early 80s, and then U.S. Repeating Arms made them up until about 2006, and I believe they're still being made by a Japanese firm. So the thing just won't die. It's just too popular, and it works. Just a really, really sweet firearm. Many of you watching this have these. I guarantee you that's not a tough guess to make, is it? You've got them, and you know more about them. You've shot them more than I have. But I love lever guns. I just love lever guns, almost of any kind. And again, why, with the firearms I have, I did not have a pre-64 Winchester 94. Again, I apologize. I really am so sorry. I really am. I apologize to you. I apologize to myself. Hope you all will forgive me for that oversight for all this time. But I am really glad to have one, and we will get it out again, I guarantee you. Really, really sweet rifle. John Browning, thanks, guy. Life is good.